The girl boss hero. She's pretty amazing when they get her right. She's fun to watch, she's inspiring, and she's beautifully badass. But these days they keep getting her wrong. The entertainment industry keeps pushing this strange, unlikable female hero on us, and to be blunt, she puts a giant wet dish towel on the whole concept of the girl boss. They blame the fans for not being tolerant or inclusive enough, but I think that's mostly a bunch of nonsense. I mean, for me, it's not about their gender. It's about their character and how they're written. We've seen a massive boom of streamers who are constantly talking about what's wrong with modern movies and shows, and the girl boss is a regular part of their lineup. And these guys just keep gaining in popularity because as the industry keeps getting worse, the streamers keep getting better and more hilarious at pointing out their flaws. When it's more interesting to watch the peanut gallery heckle the show, the problem isn't the critics, it's the show. So let's talk about 10 times they did get it right and why they were so successful. Because they've gotten it right plenty of times. I mean, there are tons of great examples out there. I'm going to start right off with my favorite, Ripley from Aliens. Ripley is part of a group I call Heroes Who Rise to the Challenge, and I've put my first 3 girl boss heroes in this group. They're absolutely iconic examples of heroes who rise to the challenge, as well as female heroes that have to learn how to navigate a man's world. These women find themselves dealing with monsters, and historically, the realm of monsters has been handled mostly by men. But we know that just because women haven't typically done something, it doesn't mean they necessarily can't. And these women step up and get the job done. What makes these 3 distinct from the rest of the girl boss heroes on my list is that they aren't seasoned warriors who can already kick ass. They have to pick up the skill set they need on the go. The thing about Ripley is that she's faced with a challenge that is beyond her current skill set, which is a great metaphor for women everywhere who are entering typically male-oriented spaces and are learning the ropes for the first time. The trend in Hollywood is for writers to have women show up and be better than everyone else at something they've never done before. It's strange, and it makes for an unrelatable and uninteresting character. I get that it's maybe meant to inspire, but I don't know that it actually does. Ripley is actually inspiring. Hollywood needs to learn that it's okay to show women as beginners, and it's okay to show men as teachers, and it's really not cool to take beloved male characters that could be great mentors and turn them into useless buffoons. If the only way they have to show women as great is to show men as bad, then they aren't really doing us a service. And just to be clear, I'm not saying women have to be beginners all the time either. I mean, Aliens also has the character of Vasquez, who serves as a great example of the kind of female warrior mindset that Ripley needs to adopt. It just needs to be done well. And Vasquez is not only fun to watch, but she's believably badass. So here's why Ripley in Aliens is my favorite. If you haven't seen it, Ripley begins the movie already traumatized by her encounter with an alien in the previous movie titled Alien, and over the course of the film, she learns to dig deep, face her inner fears, and develop the courage and skill set to approach and confront the mother alien she is terrified of. What sticks with me as iconic is the scene where she descends in the elevator down into the monster's lair to save the little girl. It's one of the most realistic portrayals I've ever seen of the mindset and physical stance you might expect of a courageous girl boss psyching herself up to approach her worst nightmare. It's iconic and inspirational. Hollywood should really take note. Now, you might think of the Terminator movies as Arnold Schwarzenegger movies, and he's definitely the big draw, but these 2 films really showcase another amazing transformation. I just remember as a young girl thinking that Sarah Connor's transformation from the ordinary and naive waitress at the beginning of the first Terminator film to the hardened and determined girl boss in Terminator 2 was pretty badass. I just watched the movies again for the first time since I was a kid, and I've got to say, they still hold up. Some of the special effects are, of course, pretty dated, but the stories are strong. Another win for James Cameron, who also directed Aliens. Sarah Connor is realistic, relatable, and fun to watch. The scene where she's in the psychiatric ward and doing pull-ups with that look of determination on her face is so awesome. Again, like Ripley, we see an actress who is convincing as someone who has developed the mindset needed to face her overwhelming situation. She needs to get out of her imprisonment and keep her son safe from the futuristic Terminators who are programmed to kill him. Like Ripley, she taps into that strong, fierce, protective drive that makes her willing to meet the challenge. Silence of the Lambs is a movie that pushes me out of my comfort zone. It's a pretty scary movie, but I've got to say, it's worth it. Jodie Foster's portrayal of Clarice Starling is incredible. Clarice is an FBI student plucked out of the academy while she's still in training who ends up dealing with the worst of serial killers. What's so amazing about how her story unfolds is that she not only goes up against figurative monsters, Hannibal Lecter and Buffalo Bill, but she has to deal with a hostile, male-dominated working environment. The way she handles both is what makes her such a girl boss. She's justifiably annoyed when her male associates are sexist and inappropriate, but she handles it with grace and strength. She speaks up for herself calmly when appropriate and ignores them when it's more expedient. She wants to do her job and achieve her main goal of rescuing the maiden from the monster, so she pushes forward and does it. That's the quality of character you want in this kind of position. She shows natural talent at her work, but it's not presented in that annoying way Hollywood likes to do it, where she shows up all the men and then acts smug. She's trying to learn and get better and prove herself all at the same time. I like how she uses ingenuity when she's not physically strong enough to get the storage bay door open. She gets a jack out of her trunk. It may seem like a small thing, but this kind of thing is part of the female experience, and it reinforces the idea that you don't have to be physically powerful so long as you're resourceful. There's so much to say about this movie. It's got some pretty deep psychological metaphors. I should probably do a video someday. But I'll leave with this. The scenes where she descends into Buffalo Bill's basement to catch the killer and save his victim are really well crafted. We get to see a realistic look at the kind of terror you'd expect from a new recruit in this kind of situation. Jodie Foster's performance is a masterclass in conveying both fear and heroic resolve. Another excellent performance by a great actress. I'll finish off this group with an honorable mention, Robin Ellicott. If you like detective series and maybe Silence of the Lambs is too creepy, my favorite is the Cormoran Strike series by J.K. Rowling, writing under the name Robert Galbraith. I do prefer the books, but the BBC series is fun and the actress does a good portrayal of one of the main detectives, Robin. She's learning the detective craft as she goes, and like Clarice, she's naturally quite good at it. She's intelligent, humble, and empathic, while still being tough and courageous. I'll be doing a video on the book series sometime this year. Okay, let's switch gears a bit. My number 4 is Black Widow from the Avengers movies. She's a great one to start off my group of heroes battling inner demons. These are heroes that are seasoned warriors, so they already have the skills. Their struggles tend to be with their own inner demons, often stemming from their troubled past. They want to be on the side of good, but they come with baggage and they can have conflicting morals. The first time I saw Black Widow was in Iron Man 2 in 2010, and I absolutely loved Scarlett Johansson's performance. She lit up the screen with her sexy but practical outfit, incredible stunt moves, and hardened but compelling demeanor. She captures something that the male action hero can't. She's evocative and alluring in a uniquely feminine way. She's so well done that when the character toes the line of believability, it's so fun that we just go with it and love it. Somehow Scarlett was able to capture the darkness of a cold, tough warrior without making her so cold that we get turned off. There's a fine line that the female hero has to walk, particularly in a superhero role like this. We're there to have fun. I'm not saying whether this line is fair or not, just that it's there. If you want an audience to be drawn to your female hero, she can't be stiff and unlikable. This happens a lot these days. You get these strong female characters who nobody likes. It's not just guys, it's us women too. Take Galadriel from the Rings of Power. Now, I'm a huge Lord of the Rings fan. Like, whenever I'm feeling down, I put on the director's cut and I immerse myself in over 12 hours of Tolkien Jackson genius. However, I'll admit I haven't watched this series because the trailers are a complete turnoff. I'm about as interested in watching this version of Galadriel as I would be in watching some embittered middle-aged woman talking about how she gave the manager a good talking to. It's okay to make women attractive and alluring, and Black Widow is one of my favorites. That brings me to number 5, Gamora. Gamora is another great girl boss hero from the MCU. She's probably the coldest heroine on my list, but it works because it's in keeping with her alien nature and her dark past, and the writers played her brilliantly off of Chris Pratt's charming and boyish Star-Lord. But even though she has that deadly assassin coldness, like Black Widow, we see this interspersed with moments of wit and charm, and this draws us in. We don't have to do any heavy lifting to find her engaging. She is meant to be the yin to Star-Lord's yang, and watching them together is entertaining and fun. The thing about this kind of character is that we can relate to her even when she has her walls up, because the actress is able to hint at that vulnerability underneath it all, that vulnerability that her walls are meant to protect. Which makes me think of an excellent honorable mention in this category, Furiosa from Mad Max Fury Road. Furiosa is a battle-worn and hardened warrior, and somehow Charlize Theron is able to convey that terrified vulnerability hiding under that rock-hard facade. The action and style are over the top, but it is really fun to watch, particularly because Charlize Theron and Tom Hardy are such great actors. As a side note, I haven't seen the new Furiosa movie. If anyone has, let me know what you think of it in the comments. Now, if you have even a passing interest in the sci-fi genre, then the 2004 series of Battlestar Galactica is a must-watch. It's an excellent episodic drama with a great cast. And while I can't seem to generate any interest in Katie Sackhoff's character in the Mandalorian series, I absolutely loved her as Starbuck in Battlestar Galactica. Starbuck is one of those few exceptions where switching the gender of the character works. Katie Sackhoff's Starbuck is a bright, competent, and engaging female lead. And Sackhoff really nailed the part, balancing Starbuck's sarcastic humor with the show's more serious themes. She also has this awesome physical presence that makes you believe she can really pull off the job. She has great emotional range, and her story arc is compelling. She lets us get glimpses of her vulnerability, then doubles down on her tough-as-nails attitude. And honestly, Battlestar Galactica really showcased a lot of great female characters, from the President Laura Roslin, to the Cylon-turned-human ally Sharon Athena, to the sexy Cylon 6. The show gave us a lot of compelling, strong, and interesting female characters, and they proved that it's not true that modern audiences don't want to see women in these typically male-occupied spaces. The show was really well received, and I loved it. All the characters have complex story arcs, and the male and female relationships are relatable and interesting. They weren't crafted to push woman empowerment at the expense of men's competency. Everyone has their rightful flaws and strengths. Now, just to show that they don't always get it wrong these days, I love the character of Nami from Netflix's One Piece. It took me a minute to get used to the show's quirky aesthetic, as it's based off of a Japanese manga of the same name. I'm not familiar with the manga or manga in general. I'm not even sure how to pronounce it. But as far as I can tell, they towed a good line, incorporating the fun but bizarre illustrated elements that made the original popular into a live-action format. Like all of our girl boss heroes in this group, Nami has trust issues. She's learned to fend for herself, and she's developed that hardened edge to deal with an unfair world. So when she meets people she actually can trust, it's hard for her to let down the walls and let them in. And that's pretty much the biggest challenge for this type of hero. She has a similar arc as Gamora. She shows up tough as nails and then gets softened by the overwhelming authenticity of her more boyish and sincere male ally, in this case, Luffy. It's a fun dynamic when pulled off right, and can lead to beautiful moments when trust is finally established. It's endearing when authentic characters like Luffy and Star-Lord believe in their heroines more than the heroines believe in themselves. This brings us to number 8, Brienne of Tarth from Game of Thrones. She's an excellent girl boss to start off our final group, Noble Heroes. These girl boss heroes not only have the skills to fight, they know what they believe in and they will do whatever it takes to uphold their values. And in contrast to our last group of heroes, they are unwavering in their devotion. I think this is the hardest type of hero to pull off. A noble or virtuous hero can come off as unrelatable when they are so virtuous that they don't have any flaws. And then again, it's even worse when writers try to present a character as noble and virtuous when they're actually just horribly flawed and the writers can't tell the difference. If you're interested in hearing more on that topic, I did a video where I dive into the subject on Netflix's Persuasion. Brienne of Tarth is the epitome of principle and devotion. Even though she is not a knight, she embodies the true values of knighthood, which contrasts beautifully against the many unscrupulous characters around her. The character of Brienne was crafted to be competent yet complex. She has a strong, noble bearing, yet is still able to reveal deep emotional undercurrents. Her arc is compelling because it revolves around her efforts to protect those she has sworn to serve, all while upholding her principles in a harsh and unprincipled world. This is the part that Hollywood can't seem to figure out. They want to make a strong, noble female hero, but they don't understand what challenges the different types of heroes must face to be heroic. They just seem to think female equals good, therefore strong female equals super amazing good. Well, that's not remotely how it works. There is a formula for crafting a heroic character that's basically been used in stories for millennia. And the formula is complex because it involves demonstrating heroism through character, which changes depending on the type of hero across the vast spectrum of heroes. And this goes from the tragic hero to the reluctant hero to the virtuous and so on. The look of the players may have been updated for modern times, but the core elements of the fundamentals of character development remain the same. Brienne of Tarth is a noble hero because she faces challenges that test her character and she holds strong and firm. I love that they cast a 6'3" tall, physically strong woman for this part. She's not traditionally mainstream beautiful, but she exudes a kind of grace and beauty within her stiffness that makes her endearing and exceptional. And it goes to show that while we tend to be drawn to mainstream beauty, we do not require it for all our female heroes. And my understanding is that, like me, audiences loved Gwendoline Christie's portrayal. Like Battlestar Galactica, the Game of Thrones series showcased many interesting and well-thought-out female characters. There was Sansa Stark, Arya Stark, Daenerys, Marjorie Tyrell, Melisandre, Ygritte, and then, of course, Cersei Lannister, who's definitely one of my favorite villains of all time. This show proved season after season that we love strong female characters that are written well. It also proved that we hate story endings that are written poorly. The character of Wonder Woman is such a great compliment to women. She embodies all that can be extraordinary about women put together in one dazzling superhero. And Gal Gadot brought her to life in Wonder Woman 2017. Like the Wonder Woman I admired as a young girl, her grace and beauty draws you in, and her compassion and humility make her an excellent role model. She has solid character. She's powerful, but it's the fact that she has solid character that makes her great. Any powerful hero, particularly superheroes with extraordinary power, must have humility in order to be worthy of their power. This is because if they have any weakness of character, then this can lead to catastrophic consequences. And as we know, it's not power that makes the hero, it's the character within. This applies to all levels of power, and I delve into this in my video, Emma, Jane Austen's Powerful Female Hero. It just becomes more explicit and urgent when it's a superhero. Humility is the counter to arrogance, which is essentially excessive pride. And if a powerful hero shows arrogance in the small times, how do we know they will do what's right when it matters most? So when we consider this, Wonder Woman's compassion and humility are a breath of fresh air in this age of the floundering girl boss. Like Brienne of Tarth, Wonder Woman's challenges come from the difficulties involved with helping those she cares about in a world that is fraught with peril and moral complexity. It's an overwhelming task to care about those who are vulnerable, and it reflects her own greatest vulnerability, that she cares. I picked Leia for my final girl boss for 3 reasons. First of all, she's a noble hero. She can be sassy and sarcastic, but she will give her all to help the rebels, even if it means enduring Vader's torture. Secondly, she was my favorite as a little girl. I grew up in a neighborhood of all boys, so the coolest thing about being the only girl was that I always got to be Princess Leia when we played Star Wars. And then finally, she's everything that Hollywood keeps trying to emulate, but can't quite seem to get. Like I said, she's sassy and sarcastic. She can also be condescending. That's Hollywood's favorite thing. And what they don't get, though, is that Leia isn't arrogant, which is a big difference. She's just got it together, and she needs the naive and inexperienced Luke Skywalker to grow up fast, and she needs the morally ambiguous and cocky Han Solo to straighten out his character, or the whole universe is going to be lost. She just pushes them towards their potential. And that's what she brings to the table, a mature and confident leader with a noble mindset. She gets the ball rolling in the story, and she keeps everyone on track in the end. She calls out Han Solo when he needs a good talking to, and it's exactly what the reluctant hero needs. And that's another thing that Hollywood just can't seem to get. They expect us to accept that women are inherently great and excel at everything without showing us the reasons behind their greatness. Modern female characters often lack balance, being portrayed as overly dominant without showing other humanizing traits. The writers underestimate our desire to see the depth and development that demonstrate women's true capabilities and potential. They think they could just throw men under the bus to artificially boost the female leads, and that will be dumb enough to lap it up. No, we don't like it. We want to see men and women try and fail and succeed. We want to see flaws and greatness from both. And we know the difference. We can tell when someone is not the real thing. All right, I'm going to end this video here. So there are a ton more amazing girl boss heroes out there. I'd love to know which ones are your favorites. Thanks for watching. Take care.